And thank you all for showing up. I do appreciate it. So, are we ready to learn a lot? This today is like the huge day, right? Not that every day isn't huge, but this is really the one that you're gonna use all the rest of the month, right? This is your modeling lecture. The 3 tools we're gonna introduce for you all to use for modeling, which will allow you to model anything that you wanna model, expect definitely any of the level 1, 2, or 3 assets, right? And really anything you wanna model, you can use these 3 tools to model anything, okay? So we're gonna introduce those tools and you're gonna use them the rest of the month for all of your modeling. How many models are due for your weekly assignment, week 1? 3, right? 3, more specifically, level 1 models, right? You get to go through level 1, you need to pick it out, right? Is everybody using the estimated parts guideline? I've actually just copied it and pasted it into an RTF here on my text edit, but this is what it would look like if you look into it. It's a PDF that you downloaded. Make sure you're downloading everything in the downloads activity, okay? You're gonna need every single one of those things to download and scroll all the way down, get every one of them. And this is gonna be one of them. Again, it's gonna be a PDF. It's not gonna be this text edit. I just copied it and put it in there because it's really easy to, I always have that application open and easy to run it. So you can see here all your level 1s, they're gonna give you some estimates, right? So if you're planning on doing the aluminum can, your estimate is 3 pieces, right? The actual can, right? The little tab on the top, right? And then the little rivet to hold the tab to the can, right? Those are your 3 pieces, right? It's like, how do you determine that, right? We're gonna talk about that as well, okay? So use this sheet. Now, they do say estimates because sometimes you'll get into a piece like the coil, okay? And you may look at that and you say, I just don't see 10 pieces. I see 8 pieces, but I don't see 10, right? So again, you're in the ballpark with 8 pieces, right? If you're in the ballpark with the 8 pieces, you know, then you're gonna have the proper parts of your grade, okay? It's extremely important when you're modeling to break things, any object up into those pieces, and we're gonna talk about how you determine what pieces get to be different pieces, actual physical separate pieces, right? The mesh or the polygons, right? Okay, so I just want you to look in here too. There's a jar is in here, okay? But the jar is a skill check, okay? You cannot turn the jar in as one of your modeling assets, okay? That's a skill check. We're providing that. That's something for you to do. The skill check is not one of your models. We only have it here for the estimated pieces, right? We're gonna actually model that jar today as one of your skill checks, okay? So I'm gonna do it for you so you can see exactly how to use these tools. And it's on here just to let you know that jar should be composed of 1 piece, right? There's other aspects, there's other models in our other scenes, okay? Again, do not use any of our models as your own, okay? I don't know if he's locked out. Are you trying to get in here? Are you in 3DF? Yeah, I didn't mean that. That door should be open. I'm not trying to lock anybody out. Okay, so definitely download this and use it, right? A lot of good resources on FSO. Okay, so vocabulary leads me right into this, okay? Build in parts. What does that mean? What do I mean parts? Okay, there's some parameters that you would think about that divide this object up into a certain amount of parts. And we're giving you the estimates of those, and then makes it a little bit easier when you're looking at an object to kind of break it down and see which, you know, about how many, right? So when we talk about build in parts, build it like it's built, right? Build it in parts, build it how the object is built in reality, build it for, you know, the way something would function as well, okay? Also, materials, right? When you think about CG objects, you do have to also think about the materials that are on those objects, right? So as far as this table, the top looks very different with the Formica on it than it does this edge, right? So even though the form basically feels like one, right? This is 2 different materials visually, and it's 2 different materials in our real world physically, right? So that would be 2 separate objects that make up the one, two separate parts that make up the one object. So as Steve will tell you, and I will tell you too, the vocabulary words are now something you're going to be graded on, right? So we're going to grade you on the right amount of parts, okay? Anytime you see the vocabulary word, you know that that's going to be part of your grade. Maybe not the first week, but it's going to add on to it. We're a building block class. As you grow with the knowledge, also the requirements grow. And we don't want you to forget about anything. From the beginning, you're still going to be required to have all of those requirements met, okay? It's just going to keep building though, right? So we're going to grow off of what our requirements are, okay? All right, so many objects, right, have multiple pieces, as you can see with the plane, right? So how do we decide this, right? What makes us think about breaking this up? Well, that might be a little bit easier with the plane, right? Because we have functioning parts. But the table here might be a little bit different, right? But it makes it a little bit easier if you think about the materials that this is made of, right? So who can tell me one material that this is made of, that you see in this object? Metal, right? The legs, right? We got metal down here. So certainly all the legs would not be part of the same object as the chair part, right? Which is wood, and probably some, formica over top of that, right? So the look of that, when we go to render that, this is going to look a lot different than this material. So that's number one good reason why, right? Number two, it's actually built that way in our physical world, right? This is a separate material. Physical wood is a separate material than your metal, right? What else? Anything else besides wood and metal? How about these little feet down here? You ever seen these little feet? Right? They could be rubber, right? Or plastic maybe, but they're definitely a different material from the wood and the metal, right? What about these little bands of, padding, kind of padding? It's like plastic padding that go around so you don't have a sharp edge wrapped around the formica, right? That formica can be sharp on the edge, so you put a little rubber glue, little rubber bumper around it, right? Okay, so that's how you kind of determine very easily when you're building an object. Is it physically made of different parts or different materials? Then are we going to move it separately, right? Also, how we're going to, render it. What kind of material is going to go on it? Is it drastically different? Okay. Any questions on this so far? Good? Makes sense, right? Cool. All right, so we're going to start looking at things and building them in pieces, right? Even though this is all wood, right? But you can see the legs, right, are mechanically fastened with these bolts on here, right? So that's where you would start thinking about separating those out. Even though they're the same material, they're built separately, okay? Oh yeah, if you want to become the Poly Commander, you can build one of these in level 3. It's a level 3 asset, a Nerf gun. Heck yeah, it's gonna be fun. But there's a lot of moving parts, even though most of this is probably the same material, plastic, right? You can start seeing, oh my gosh, how many different pieces are here, right? Let's see what the estimated sheet says. All right, level 3, Nerf gun, 20 pieces. That's why I say it's quite an advanced achievement. You're not required to do it. You are required to pick, I think it's 3 out of the level 3 for week 3, okay? So this very well could be one of them, right? And then you can count 20 pieces on here, okay? These separate, even though really, this is pretty much almost an identical model, right? Mirrored over for the other side. Mirrored over for the other mirror. Yeah, we're going to talk about the mirror tool, right? That would save you a lot of time not having to model both sides, right? So we're going to get into that as well. So hopefully you're starting to get the gears going and know what I'm talking about and build it like it's built. Build it in parts of materials, build it in parts of functioning aspects, build it in parts of materials that you're going to put in for the render, right? The look of it, the calculations of that. So component manipulation, we can only go so far with object manipulation, right? We only have scale X, Y, Z, right? Now we've started talking about the components and moving them around. How can we manipulate them further, right? We've already decided that we're able to move them around individually, but how can we start thinking about what those components are doing, right? The first thing we have to realize is that every polygon is flat. You can't bend or warp polygons. So how do we make anything that is not flat, that is round at all, organic at all, right? Well, we can't do that with one polygon. That means we have to have multiple ones before we can start bending, right? We're not really bending any polygons. We're just adding more and dividing that, say, 90-degree turn into, let's have 3 of those, right? So we're going to start rounding. So anytime you have a change in shape, you must have polygons. If you have polygons, you must have what? Edges for sure, right? And what else must you have? Vertices, absolutely, right? You can't have polygons without edges and vertices, right? So anytime we have a change in shape, you know that we're going to be creating more polygons, edges, and vertices. Okay, so what is the difference between this? Let's talk. All right. You guys all have Maya ready? You have your activities downloaded, right? So you want to do this one? Let's do it. Okay. Come on online, you can do this too. Check over there real quick, see how they're doing. No, we can't. We're suffering. Oh my God, no screen, lovely. Thank you. Yes, I'm very happy I checked. Can you see it now? We're screaming. My sincere apologies. They're like, we're blind. We can hear you in the dark depths of the cave, but we can't see the wall. Okay. Well, I'm glad that I jumped over here and was able to catch that. Can't see this. So, are we good now? So we're going to start with the this activity, okay? The shape change activity. And we're manipulating components, okay? So let me open this up. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set Maya to my activities project, right? Everybody know how to do that? Let's see, this is my alarm clock. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller in case I can't see it at home, just to make sure. All right, so under File, Set Project, right? This is our way to communicate with Maya, right? If you don't get on the same page with Maya, your life will be miserable. Trust me. You've got to get Maya on the same page. This is how we do it. Every time we're going to work with Maya, set your project. Okay? Tell Maya what project you're going to set to, and then it will understand, and it will go to where your scenes are saved. It'll also resort to your source images, okay, for its image planes. So let's set it. We're going to set it here to activity. Notice that I don't double click and go into activity, right? Don't double click and go into that folder because you've just gone inside of that project folder. If you do that, there's a little blue up arrow over here. Just click that, go up a directory, right? Each one of these are a different directory. It's a big giant filing cabinet for Finder. Folder inside of a folder inside of a folder inside of a folder inside of a folder is a file, right? It's the way it stays organized. It helps us stay organized. It helps Maya stay organized, right? So the quicker we understand that, the quicker that we're going to be able to work with Maya and a good communication. So I'm going to click one time on the activity files. That is the project folder. I do want to see that down here in directory, activities file. So I'm going to set that. Here's a giant red flag. If you go to File, Open Scene, and it doesn't take you to my activities file project, inside that a directory called scenes, then you're probably confused, right? Maya's probably a little confused here, okay? Stay away from any kind of special characters in your naming of your folders. Stay away from any spaces, okay? Use underscore. I use underscore a lot because I have some dyslexia and the words just close together, all the letters close together just get mumbled for me. So I use a lot of underscores to separate my words. Makes it a lot easier for me to see. Those are fine, but spaces are not, okay? And special characters like semicolons, colons, anything like that, stay away from those, slashes, right? Stay away from that stuff. It's gonna confuse your operating system and then you won't know why it's coming up with errors or not working properly, but that could be the problem, okay? So let's see here. I think this is shape change. You opened it up front here. Is that it? Thank you. Okay, so we have the shape change activity here, visible. And basically what we're going to do is try to match these shapes. Now, you see that my image planes did come in, right? That's another red flag, right? One is if it doesn't open up to my scenes folder, it's not understanding what I'm wanting to work with. Another one is if I don't see these pictures, right? If I don't see these pictures are called image planes that we have imported into the scene, okay? Levels 1 and levels 2 have a scene set up for you and imported image planes. Level 3 does not. You all have to create a brand new scene and you will have to import these image planes, okay? But right now, that's a heads up, says, oh, okay, I can see those image planes, so Maya is really understanding what project I want to work with, right? Had I not seen the pictures, it would come up with a pink rectangle with an X through it. And that's telling you, nope, I don't know where those images are. I cannot go access them, and we're not communicating, right? Okay, so you have your perspective view, which image planes really aren't any good in the perspective view because they don't really line up. And what happens to the image plane when we get farther away from it? What happens to the picture? Huh? It gets smaller. Thank you very much. Awesome. Because what camera am I in right now? Can anybody tell me? Perspective, right? It says so right here, right? Okay, so this is the image plane that I'm seeing right here for my front, right? Do you see that? This is what this image plane is for, because you'll see if I slide it this way, or I'm sorry, side. I have the side one selected right now. This is the front one, okay? So if you see that I can slide it left and right, right, that it's moving left and right. But if I move it closer to the camera in my perspective view, my picture gets bigger. In my orthographic view, my front view, it does not change, right? Because it's not true 3D. It doesn't have the third dimension. So you see that my image plane and my size of my picture on the image plane doesn't change. Everybody seeing that in the front view here? I like to show it in both views so you can see me moving it. As opposed to if I'm in the camera of the perspective, you can see the size changes. So that's going to be very difficult to try to model from, okay? So your image planes are really no good in your perspective view. So I push them out of the way, right? Just kind of get them out of the way so I can see my objects, okay? They're great for my orthographic views, right? We have to have one for our front and side. So now we can look at these to try to match this shape, okay? All right, so let's start out with this first block here. Well, it's already a block, isn't it? Let's see, it's kind of hard to see the image plane behind here, right? Because our model is in front of it and it's solid. So how could I see through this solid model? 4 is one answer. 4 goes into wireframe, right? So that's the hotkey for wireframe. If I press 4, now I see no shaded polygons. I see wireframes, and wireframes are just the edges, right? Okay, so that's one answer. The second answer up here is, gentlemen, set X-ray, okay? Now to get X-ray to work, you have to be in shaded mode, okay? So 5, number 5 on your keyboard is shaded mode, all right? Now to get to X-ray, each camera has its own menu set. You see this menu set right here? Each camera has this. So this menu set, when I press the space bar or I press this 4 view over here, go back to my 4 cameras, you see that each one of them have their own menu set, okay? So you can change up what one camera sees over another camera, okay? So if I wanted to see wireframe here, but I wanted shaded here, I can do that, okay? Just put your mouse in there and then press a hotkey 4 or 5. Now, there's not a hotkey for X-ray, but each of your cameras have it, okay? So let's go into X-ray here. Under each of the cameras, there is shading. And under shading, there is an X-ray button that's not turned on. So we can do it here. Now we have X-ray on there. We can do it in this camera. And we can leave this one wireframe, and we can leave this one to shaded, okay? So now when I open this up, right, I'm looking at this first, this first block, and well, it matches, okay? Everything's good. We're matching that reference, okay? But if we move over to this one, you can see that we don't match, okay? And if we look at this other cube, you say, okay, hey, this one matches too, right? Now, always make sure that you go into all of your orthographics, because you notice that this side is not matching, okay? So we have to make this adjustment. So can I make this shape out of what I have? I can, because I have polygons split here, right? These are 2 separate polygons, right? So I can actually change the shape because I have 2 polygons there, right? Had this been a default cube with no split in the middle of it, I wouldn't be able to change the shape, right? So we're going to talk about how you use the tools to get those, split these polygons, right? And the tool's called Insert Edge Loop or Multi-Cut, okay? And we're going to get into those. So let me just change the shape on this one. So how would I do that? I'm in object mode, right? If I hit my scale tool, right, I can scale it, but that's not going to work because then the top doesn't match, right? So what could I do here? I'll have to go into component mode, right? So how do I go into component mode? Right mouse button, click and hold, and make sure you're either, I always say put it right on the edge, right? For Maya to understand what you're trying to get to, because while it sees it right now, it's because I'm in shaded with X-ray on. If I'm in 4, look, it's not seeing that face, right? Because I don't have it shaded. So what it's trying to go to is the image plane that's behind it now. It thinks I want to mess around with the image plane, right? So always go to the edge, because if you're on the edge, then it's going to know that you want to deal with this object. Cool? All right, so can I do it with face mode or vertex mode or edge mode? Vertex mode? Let's try vertex mode. So I could take this one and I could use my move tool and move it over here. I could take this one, take my move tool and move it over here. I could space bar out of that and then space bar into perspective, press 5 to see my smooth shaded, hit F to frame up what I'm working on, went right to that vertex, right? These two vertices, right? So how does that shape look? Am I matching? Yeah, we're matching, right? Everyone with me? You're good? Okay. So I just use the space bar quite a bit. I use my mouse. I go into my perspective, hit space bar, right? Hit space bar, go back to 4. Hit space bar, go into my side, right? This is how I navigate and jump between the 4 cameras. My outliner you see is open here, right? If you don't have it open, you can get to it from Windows Outliner. I use this a lot because it shows every single thing that I have in my scene, including my cameras, right? Perspective camera, top camera, front camera, side camera, cube, polycube 4, 5, right? P cylinder, P cone, my image planes. It has everything in the outliner. So if you're ever looking for something, maybe you pushed it off into space somewhere or something, you can come in here and find your object, okay? All right, so let's move on to the next one then. Let's take a look at this one. Now this one's getting a little bit more complicated. So the side view, I see I'm gonna have to push that out. I'm gonna have to push this in. What about the front view? Let me check this one out. All right, and the front view says the top needs to go out and the top and the bottom needs to come in. So what is that telling me? If the front view and the side view are the same, that means I need to move these edges or vertices in the same distance, right? So I'm basically gonna push it in at the bottom and push it in at the side. So what is that? That's gonna be a circle, right? That's actually a circle. We can look in the top view, right? So we can push that in and we can pull the top out, but we need to keep proportion, right? We can go to one view and do 2, and another view do 2, and then try to keep it that way, but it's gonna get lopsided, okay? So I'm gonna show you how to maintain proportions here. And there it is in the top view. It is round, perfect. Okay, so I can go into my front, I can go into my vertex mode, I can select all these vertices here, okay? Sometimes I like to check it just to look and make sure that I do have those selected and just those, because sometimes I'll select more that I'm not aware of and then I'll start making adjustments and everything gets kind of whacked out. So check your perspective, get a glance on it. Yep, those are exactly what I'm gonna manipulate here. And I can't move these, but I can scale them, okay? Vertices have no scale, okay? But if you select more than one, then you have a middle position between all the distance of them. And that's why my manipulator's in the dead center, right? Because this is, if you look at the top where it is, right? It's the same distance from all of my vertices I have selected. So if I use the scale tool will move those in toward that center placement or away from it, okay? And so on this one, I want to push away from it. On this one, I want to pull toward it, right? So let's scale this. Right, so my scale tool, and I'm going to, if I scale Y, nothing's going to happen because they're not moving up or down toward this center point, right? If I scale just in the X, let's go into wireframe here. If I scale just in the X, you can see that it starts moving on the X axis, and actually, you know, I can scale out and get this one correct, but what's happening with my Z? My Z is not moving. So again, 2 moves, right? I could come in here with the Z after the X and pull it out, okay? But it's much more economical to do it one time at the same time because you're going to maintain the same distance, okay? And that's this little green icon here, manipulator, okay? This is going to allow me to change both of the axes at the same time and proportionally, right? So you see in my side view and the front view, which means I am scaling out X and Z at the same time. Everybody see that? Okay, so this can save me some time, right? I don't have to go to one or the other. It's also much more accurate, right? Okay, so we have that one scaled out. Let's go ahead and grab these. Okay, you notice I'm making a marquee around these. And what happened? My edges turned green. What does that tell you? What mode am I in? I'm in object mode, right? And what do I need to be in to get these vertices? You got it, right? So right mouse button, click and hold, go into vertex. Maya got a little confused. I actually had those selected beforehand, so it went back to that selection. Thank you. I'm happy about that. I don't know why it deselected and went to object mode, but sometimes it happens. I just want you to know when you see the edges turn green, you're suddenly out of component mode. When they are blue, you're still in component mode. So do you see how we're manipulating the components to get the shape we're looking for, right? You haven't seen me add any components, right? I haven't added any components. I haven't added any faces, edges, or vertices. I've just used what I've had to manipulate to the shape, okay? I want you to keep that really, really on the top of your brain right now, because I'm going to teach you how to cut up these polygons, add polygons, but sometimes you just have enough of what you have and you just need to manipulate those, right? We're trying to be economical with our polys, right? You always want to make it just enough to make that form, but not an exorbitant amount over for waste, right? Because they're expensive, right? As Steve says, polygons are like money and you don't want to spend money, right? So the least amount of money you can spend, the better, okay? So, but you still have to have the shape, right? You have to have polygons, edges, and vertices to have a change in shape. There's no doubt about that, okay? So let's go over to the next one. Everybody with me? I think I'm not right on the edge. There we go. Let's go into object mode. I'm going to select this. I'm going to focus in all my cameras, and that's a shift and focus, F. Okay. So it allowed me just to kind of zoom in and see where everything was in all my views with one shot, one quick shortcut, hotkey. You're going to start finding those, which ones you use a lot, and you're going to use them, and you're going to forget that you use them. If someone's going to watch you and they go, "How did you do that?" Like, I don't know. I'm not even sure what key combinations I pushed there. All right. So let me just check on these guys over here real quick. Make sure they're seeing. You guys seeing and hearing everything? All good. Okay. Great. Well, meet me in the Hangout and we can figure out any of those questions that you have. All right. Cool. All right. Okay, so the next shape. What are we going to do with this one? Why is nothing responding here? Okay, stop that. You see, I'm not even doing anything. It's stuck. Well, we love the Z button, don't we? Did you see that? It was like stuck on there. Like, let go of me. It's like, felt like a spider web, actually. You ever run into a spider web? You're like, oh, get off. Well, I ride a lot in the dirt in the woods, so I run into spiders all the time. And my mouse is not working. Should have never gone over and checked on them. Okay. Let's try my space bar. Space bar not working. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to quit Maya and see if Maya will come back to life for me. Okay. So while Maya's taking a little break, we're going to talk about polygons. Polygons are all we're using in this class. We are not going to use NURBS or subdivided surfaces. Polygons only, okay? If you use the tools that we're teaching you, you won't have any problem running into NURBS. You start going out and looking at tutorials and how to do a revolve or something, you might run into some NURBS. All right, so what do we call a polygon? Well, it's kind of it's a little bit ambiguous because it covers a lot of things here, right? Polygons can be quads, tris, and n-gons. Okay, they're basically the mesh that we're building, right? As soon as you hit, create a cube, right? How many polygons do you get when you create a default cube? 6, right? You get 6. Very good. And those can be called mesh. That could be called mesh. That could be a poly object. That could be a polygon. You could consider the whole thing a polygon, even though it's 6 polygons, right? All connected with edges and vertices. Okay. So all of that can be considered a polygon. Okay. And what we want to focus on for this class, not that you would not use triangles in other classes, okay? Especially if you're going into game art, you definitely will be modeling with triangles, okay? But for this class, we want you to focus on quads, right? Which is 4-sided polygons, okay? We always want to stay away from the n-gons, right? N-gons or polygons with more than 5 sides. More than 4 sides, okay? It could be 5, 6, whatever. As long as it has more, then you're into the n-gon territory. And yes, while you can have the computer fix that for you, more than likely it's not going to fix it the way you're expecting to or wanting it to, okay? So eventually that would have to be fixed. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to clean those up, how to fix those, how to stay away from them, and how to model with quads, okay? Again, future classes, you're going into game art possibly, you're definitely going to model with triangles, all right? You're going to investigate what triangles are all about, all right? But just for this class now as a foundation, we want you to think about quads. We want you to think about good edge flow with quads. And so that's why we're focusing your attention on that as opposed to other modeling techniques. Cool? Okay. Polygon faces. Can everybody see that? Right? Is it all quads? You're like, well, why would it be at the picture up there if it was all quads, right? Trick question. Not really a trick question, but where is the one that is not a quadded face? This one. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? What about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though it looks like a quad, right? It's in the square shape like a quad. You have to count the edges. Even though this looks like one edge, where another edge meets, they have to have a vertice, right? So they're cutting this long, tall vertical edge in half, okay? So this is an n-gon. This is going to be bad for us in this class, all right? We're not expecting you to turn in any n-gons. What is this one? Well, it's going to be a triangle, right? Okay. Some of those are acceptable in this class because we're going to use some tools that may create them. You may need to find in some certain places a quad is going to be very difficult to get in there. And we do accept a very low amount of triangles in this class, okay? What we're going for are what? Quads, right? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, cool, we're good with this one, right? Problem is, we have to fix this one, okay? So we're going to learn how to do that. I didn't think we got into the cleanup tool today. The cleanup tool will, if you leave it automatically on, by default, will take those N-gons and they'll just cut it all up into triangles, okay? But it's probably not going to give you what you want. It's also not what we want from this class, right? We want you to think about the topology, okay? We want you to think about how you can make quads if possible, okay? But what we will use the cleanup tool to do is to find our N-gons, okay? Which that is awesome because most of your models aren't going to be a 6-sided cube, is it? No, there's going to be a bunch of faces, right? A bunch of polygon faces that make it up, right? So to try to go around the whole model looking for N-gons is going to be a little crazy, right? So that's why we have the tool, but we're going to change it from the default setting to clean it up, fix the problem, to select and show, right? I'm not going to do it today, but it's coming, okay? Select and show those N-gons, other problem geometry, and then we can go in and fix them, okay? But it's cool that they have that. We can use it to just find them because that's a time saver. All right, so edge looping and topology, okay? This is eventually, probably by the end of this month, you're gonna start walking around and looking at stuff and you're gonna start thinking how I would model that. Where would the edges go, right? How many would I need to make this curve, right? How would my edge flow, right? That's the flowing of the edges from one polygon to the next, right? You're going to start looking around and going, oh yeah, so you know, when I have this, I can't square it off, so I'm going to have some polygons here to cut to make this curve, right? You'll just start walking around and looking at shapes, okay? Pretty tough one here. Which one would you consider has good edge flow and which one would you consider not having good edge flow? Kind of the one that looks like it's been stepped on or run over by a Mack truck, right? Obviously, that's not good edge flow, right? It's not, it's all crooked and everything's going like this, right? What else does it do to the geometry? It's actually trying to twist it, right? It's actually trying to twist it so much that you can't even see this edge on the other side of that polygon, okay? That's when you know as an artist that you have too much twist in a polygon, okay? We are going to use the tool to look for non-planar polygons. Now you do have to remember, if we're talking about a cube, we're probably not going to find any non-planar polygons because they're going to be pretty straight, right? But the minute we have a curve, right? The minute we have a cylinder, then we have some twist, right? Just like this, right? The tool might actually select those and say, hey, these are not planar, right? But Maya doesn't have eyes, right? So you as the artist has to decide, well, the tool selected these and these are non-planar, but I can see all the edges, right? Yes, they may be twisted slightly. The computer only has math, so it's detecting that as a twist, right? Non-planar. But I can see that, you know, these faces are okay, right? When I see this, where the edge disappears, I have a face here, right, and the edge is gone, that's when you as the artist looks at that and goes, yeah, these are twisted, these are not planar enough. This is gonna cause problems when I try to render this. Okay, so stay away. You know, you have to be the artist that makes the final decision, okay? All right, so here's the big tools. Are you ready? These are awesome tools. You're gonna love them. You're gonna make anything in this whole world with these tools inside of Maya, not in the real world. That'd be cool. Well, I guess you could do it in Maya and then print it out, so then it'd be the real world. Okay, so multi-cut, insert edge loop, and extrude tool. These are the tools I want you guys to get familiar with and use all month long. These are your foundation tools, okay? These are the tools that we're expecting you to use. You will move on to other classes, other modeling classes, and you're going to be introduced to a whole bunch of other different tools, okay? But if you get to know and understand these tools right here as a good foundation, it will help you understand all of those other tools that you're going to be introduced to, okay? And they may do multiple things or do some shortcuts. I'm probably going to be doing multiple things is what you're going to find out. But these tools can do everything that you need them to do, okay? So it looks like we have an activity here. Let me open up this activity. Create, manipulate components. All right, just launched Maya. Now I want to go and make sure that Maya understands that I want to work with an activity. So I'm going to go set my project and go to the right menu set project, activities, to open it up, and I guess it's the big 3 activity. Okay, all right. So this activity just has 3 objects in here, 3 meshes, and we're supposed to go ahead and make those. Oh my God, I'm scared. There's nothing to even start with. What do I start with? Let's start with a quad and keep them all quads, right? Well, how about let's start, what was the basic shape we have here? Cube, right? Let's go with a cube, all right? So actually all 3 of them, right? So I'm gonna make 3 cubes. So create polygon primitives, cube. G is repeat last command, so it just repeats another cube for G. G is in girl. Okay, so now I have 3 of them. Okay, so what I could do is come in here and go into X-ray mode, right? And then I could just line them up, so or at least we're lined up as far as the base of these shapes, right? All right, so that's the side. And the top looks pretty good. Okay, so basically we have a good start here, okay? But looking at this now, I'm looking at this and saying, okay, I've got to raise this kind of like a Monopoly house or something, right? So how can I do that? Can I do that with the cube that I have selected? No, can't do it, right? Because why? We have a change in shape right here on the top polygon, but we don't have any faces, edges, or vertices cutting through there, right? So what tool do you think we're going to use to cut through that polygon? Cutting tool. Cuts through multiple polygons. The multi-cut, sure. All right, let's try it. So let's see how this thing works. Let's go and zoom in here. I'm going to go to my top view and see, we're cutting through the X, right? So I wanted to see what axes I wanted to cut through, right? So I went here and I said, this is the way, and I looked at my X as they're color coordinated as well. So red is going to be your X. I have it selected here. What do we have selected? It turns to yellow. So by default, the up arrow is going to be your Y, and the depth arrow is going to be your Z, which is blue, and then green for your Y. So I can see this is going down the X-axis, so I know that that's easy enough to do. If I grab this, even though it's yellow, I can look in my little icon, my little legend down here in the bottom and see that that's the X-axis. So I want to cut across here, right? So I have the object selected. Now I want to use the tool, okay? So under Mesh Tools, you have Multi-Cut. Multi-Cut. Multi-pass. And you see I just get this little like a razor blade, right? And then, oh, Steve's so much more fun at this because yeah, these are little lasers pew, 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 going to all the corners here, and it gets real animated. But what that's trying to do is Maya's trying to say, hey, I'm trying to work with you here. You already told me this is the object, right? I got the tool, I'm ready to slice and dice, right? I'm gonna multi-cut. And he's going, do you wanna go from this vertice? Or if you get it closer to another one, it kind of pops over there, right? But it doesn't have to go from a corner, okay? It can also go from the middle here, right? So if I just click my left mouse button right on this top edge, you see that now I get some little values, right, that go from 100 to 0. So really I have these, 100 little stops here from one end of the edge to the other. And if I hold my shift button down, then it gives me 10% increments. So I can easily come to the 50%, right? Holding shift down. I never let go of my left mouse button. I'm still holding my left mouse button down, and I can let go of my shift. It's okay. But as soon as I let go of my left mouse button, I'm holding the shift down again so I can kind of lock it in at 50%, right? As soon as I let go of my left mouse button, then it's just created a little vertice right there, right? Little baby vertice. So I'm gonna go straight over here in the Y axis, go straight across, and I can click anywhere and hold. Again, I'm getting all my values in between here, or I can hold shift, and then it's gonna snap it to a 10% increment, all right? So again, I'm still holding my left mouse button down, and as long as I hold it down, I have the option to change this point. Once I let go of it, it locks it in, okay? I can hit the Z button, and it's still gonna continue to hold my first one that I locked down, right? So it's not like it gets you out of the tool. I'm still in the tool. I hit Z to undo that last command, and I'm gonna hold shift and do it again. Left mouse button, let go of the left mouse button. Now I have a brown line, right? I have a brown edge here. It's not complete, right? It's not complete until I hit my enter. Hit your return or your enter. Now suddenly you know we're in component mode, and I have a blue edge, and now I have just sliced one polygon into two. Added what? An edge, right? What else did I add? Two vertices, absolutely. I still have the multi-cut, right? It's still trying to do, it'll just keep on cutting all day long, right? To get out of any tool, hit your Q is the hotkey for select tool. So just hit Q, get out of that. Now it's into selection mode. And the last mode I was in polygon faces, so it's trying to select the polygon face. But I don't want a whole face, right? I just want to move this up, right? So it could actually come in here. I can see that's it. So I'm going to go and right mouse click and go to edge, select my edge, use my move tool right here, or the hotkey for that is W, right? You're starting to see that one hand's going to be on the keyboard and another one's going to be on the mouse or your pen. And which way do I want to move this? What axis? Up in green, Y. Good. Okay. So let's check it out here. And line it up and boom. Okay. On the edge there, go in object mode. We're done. We just made that one. Cool. Okay. Problem is, what do we have here? One, two, three, four. Yes, an N-gon, right? Not too cool, okay? But what is the best tool to fix N-gons? It cuts those polygons up. It'll cut multiple polygons up and fixes N-gons. You're right. The number one, multi-cut tool, right? So let's use the multi-cut tool. How could I fix this N-gon? What would I have to do to fix this? Atom edge from where? Like right here, right? And cut down. Let's do it. Mesh tools, multi-cut. Notice what I did there, right? I went from the middle over here, I'm gonna do it again, undo. I went from the middle over here and I kind of slid it up here. Why did I do that? Because it tends to stop. When you get to a versi, it'll stop, okay? If you don't do it that way, I promise you what's gonna happen is you're gonna think you're close enough and then you're clicking and it's gonna create another edge right here, all right? So this kind of saves you from a rogue edge, okay? So you wanna click and slide, okay? Left mouse, click and hold. I'm gonna slide it. I can hold my shift to find that 50%. Boom. Enter. There's my edge. I just fixed it, right? Q to get out of the tool. Now I'm back in my selection tool. Cool. All good, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. What tool is your favorite tool for fixing ingons? Multi-cut. Thank you very much. All right, so mesh tools, multi-cut. Whoops, wrong button. Multi-cut. Let's slide it over. Snap. Hold shift. Snap. Enter. In fact, I'm not going to enter this one. I'm going to show you can keep on cutting. Okay. I can keep on cutting all the way around. It won't stop cutting until I hit enter. Okay. So I'm going to go all the way up here. Now I'm going to hit enter. What did that do? It just made 2 edges, right? One here and one here. And now we're all good. All quadded out. Everything's quadded, right? But that took me to do multi-cut on the top, side, bottom. Okay, the last 2 I went a little bit quicker because I did 2 at a time. Okay, so I could do all 4 at one time and then move the top one up, right? So that's getting a little bit quicker to do them all at once. Now, how about if I could just say with one tool, let me go all the way around, right? Let's go all the way around the cube because that's what I did with the multi-cut, right? I went right through the middle, went all the way around. Am I right? Okay. This is where I'm going to introduce the next tool. Tool number 2. What's that? Insert edge loop, right? And because it goes all the way around, it's called an edge loop, all right? So we're just going to insert that one on the second one and see how much quicker that one is going to be to make. So with this one selected, go into mesh tools, right up to above the multi-cut, you have insert edge loop, okay? Pick an edge, right? Try not to pick this space down here. It's going to get confused. You want to pick an edge and left mouse click and hold it once you get that edge, okay? Because then you can line it up, okay? Unfortunately, unlike a multi-cut tool, there isn't one that's going to snap it to 10% increments, okay? So you have to kind of line it up, or what you could do is get smart with your grid, right? We could go into a top view here, frame up this guy, right? And I can see that my object is perfectly in the middle of this grid. So I could just go ahead and line it up with this grid and know that that's going to be very, very close to the center of it, right? Okay, so there we go. I'm going to go back to any other view to show, well, I'm going to go to perspective to show you that it cut the loop all the way around with one click. I didn't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks. One click, right? You say, well, Brian, you saved 4 clicks. Whoop-de-doo. Well, when you're doing it 4 million times, no one's going to laugh. All right, awesome. Hit enter. You're going to be doing this 4 million times. Oops, undo. How do I get out of this tool? Q, right? All right, I'm back in selection. Let's grab that top edge here, right there, and move it up. Done. Right? Much quicker. Okay? All quads. Uh-oh. This one's looking kind of weird. I don't know, man. Can someone else come up here and show this one? No. Can we do it with what we have? No way. How would I multi-cut that in? I mean, I guess I could cut from one corner to the other corner, make the cross, and then multi-cut those into a small square on the top, right? Then I'd have some extra edges. I can delete them out of there, right? Boy, that sounds really complicated, but it could be done, right? It could be done with the multi-cut tool, right? Literally, you could do everything with the multi-cut tool. Slowly, but it could be done. We're not going to do it with the multi-cut tool. What are we going to do it with? Extrude, right? This is going to be your favorite tool. This is the coolest tool of all, right? This is really where Maya shines, the extrude tool. We can extrude vertices, don't do it. Edges, don't do it. Faces. You always want to have your faces selected when you're going to extrude, okay? Very, very few occasions ever are you going to extrude an edge. And really, I have never seen any use for extruding a vertice, okay? Strange things happen. You don't want to do it anyway. If you do, play on your own time. So what am I going to select? Face. There we go. Polygon face. So right mouse click, go into face mode, right? Select this top face. Okay. Okay. Now, don't run out of the room when you see this. Okay. Don't be afraid of it. It is complicated and complex, but don't run away from it. Okay. The hotkey is Command E if you wish. Okay. But this one is going to be under your Edit Mesh Extrude. Okay. I'm quite sure these tools are probably on your shelf buttons too. You can always roll over any of your buttons and it's going to show you what it is right here. Okay. So if you're not sure what those buttons are on your shelf, you can always roll over it. Tells you a lot of information down there. It tells you everything really, really fast. But the extrude tool, you see, it has Command E, right? Is also the hotkey for it. There's a lot of hotkeys set up. Steve's going to talk about those and how to set those up and change them if you want to. I always just leave them at the default for right now until you get used to it. Okay, but once I hit this tool, strange things are going to happen to this polygon face. Boom. That's not very strange, Brian. But what did happen? My manipulator changed, right? Up until now, we have only been dealing with one manipulator, right? Either the arrows, which is your move manipulator, or the little cubes, right? Which are your scale manipulators, right? Or circles, which are your rotate manipulators, right? What do we see here? We got everything you want right there in that one tool. It has the translate, rotate, and scale all in one. How does that make it, extremely exciting and extremely fast to work with? Because you can take these new polygons. Well, I only created one, so I created one new polygon. Actually, that's not true. I created one new polygon here and 1, 2, 3, 4 around the sides. Now, one thing I don't like about this tool, especially for beginners, is you can't see that, right? It looks exactly like the cube before I hit extrude, right? The only thing that changed was my manipulators changed, right? But what you could be doing is like, oh, okay, I need to extrude, and then, did I extrude or not? I don't know, better extrude again. Now you have polygons piled on top of each other, all right? And we're gonna show you how to clean those up, but this tool is the only thing I don't like about that. It doesn't tell you, hey, you've got polygons piled on top of each other. If you don't move, rotate, or scale it, you're gonna have bad geometry just piled right on top of each other, okay? So always move, rotate, or scale after you extrude, even if you're gonna undo it, right? So what do we need to do now? Let's try moving it. Whoop. All right, and just like I promised you, I created not just one polygon on top, right? But the 4 that go all the way around as well. So 5 polygons were just created with that one extrude. And how cool is it? They're all connected, right? They're all connected with edges, The vertices are all there, and it doesn't matter where I move or scale or rotate, it's still all going to stay connected. Now, this polygon here is so twisted, it's never going to work, right? So if we were going to do some kind of shape like that, we would need to have multiple extrudes, okay? The nice thing about this tool is it stays selected. I can extrude again if I need to, and again and again. So I'm going to undo back to this, okay? Because what I'm looking for is this much height, right? That's my side view. I know that's the right height, okay? And then I'm looking for, let's go into X-ray here, make it a little bit bigger. I'm looking for this kind of a scale like so, right? So I'm still in that tool, right? What button will get me out of that tool if I want to? Q will get me right out of this tool if I want to. But if I didn't want to, say I wanted to continue to model this, maybe I wanted it some kind of satellite dish or something, okay? So this would be the base for it, right? With those polygons still selected, okay, I can take and extrude again. And I can come up, I can extrude again. I could extrude again. Could extrude again. Could extrude again. Could extrude again. This time I'm going to scale it inward. Oops. Oops. Okay. And satellites kind of go in, they're concave, right? So how could I go in? Well, if I extrude again, yeah, I can start going in. So this is how you're going to make the jar, right? This is how you could kind of make the top of the jar. Now you wouldn't have to rotate it, but you'd want to extrude it up over the top and then extrude it down inside, right? I could extrude again, squeeze these in nice and tight. Extrude again, start coming out here, extrude again. And we have a rough satellite there, right? A little satellite dish, all right? So I'm gonna hit Q to get out of that tool, right? Until I get out of that tool, I can keep extruding and extruding and extruding to make any form that you want, right? Pretty cool, right? I told you like that extrude tool. That is gonna be one of your key tools. Now, what did I say at the very beginning of the class to keep on the front of your forelobe here, right? Once you get so crazy with the extrude tool, you can get crazy with the extrude tool, and then you have a ton of faces and edges, right? Don't forget, you may be able to change that shape with the geometry you have now, right? So if you can do it without extruding with what you have now at the current time, don't extrude and make more faces, right? If you have enough faces to make that change in form, then you don't need to extrude, okay? Any questions on those three? I think we have some practice here. Pretty sure there's another practice. Extrude. Let's see, big 3 activity. Edge flow. Extrude. I think this is it. Aha. A component, manipulate components and extrude activity. Silly of me not to know that. Okay, so you're all trying it, right? Bring it up. Looks easy, doesn't it? So what we have here are some default geometry. The green that Steve has set up for you to manipulate into the shapes of the yellow. Cool? Can you do it? So let's look at the first one. Okay, we're going to turn a cube into a cylinder. So all those years as a kid trying to put the square in the round hole, they said, no, don't do it. Well, now here we are in college. We're going to do it. Put a square in a round hole. Right? All artists want to put the square in a round hole. Come on. We get to do it today. Yes. Okay, so how do I do this? Well, okay, first of all, let's evaluate. Do I need any more edges, faces, or vertices? Well, let me show you. How can I select multiple edges? If I want to select this edge, and then I want to select this one, I can add to my selection or subtract from my selection with Shift, right? So if I hold Shift down, yes, I can select that one there. Okay, this one, this one. Actually, let me just show you this first, okay? So if we were in the top view, okay, I have this one or 2 edges that make up this one side selected, right? So I could come in here and say, move tool, let's move it inward, right? So then I could come back over here and I could select this face and this face, go into my top, move it over here, right? I could go back in here, selection mode, and select this face and this face, and come over to here and move it in. Now everybody can go home to their first grade teacher and say, I could show you how to put a cube inside of a round hole right here, right? So we just made this by manipulating those edges. I did not need to add any more edges, faces, or vertices to create that shape. So for that process, it took me selecting 2, moving, 2, moving, 2, moving, 2, moving, right? So I had to select 8 edges and move 4 different times. Let me undo that. And let's go a faster route, okay? If I select all 8 edges, wireframes a little easier to see sometimes. I have my 8 edges, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. Okay. Back into shaded mode. Okay. And now if we look at the top, I can go into scale mode. So I showed you this with vertices, right? But this works with anything you have selected and you're using the scale tool. Doesn't matter if you're talking about vertices, edges, faces, or even separate objects. They will scale toward that center point. So I can scale them all in. And what does this do for me? Makes it a lot quicker, right? And a lot more accurate, right? Because I'm moving them all the same distance when I do it at the same time. Okay? All right. Next one. Let's see. I want to make this into this. How could I do that? What's the easiest way I could do that? Do I need more faces, edges, and vertices? I do, right? So would I be better off with the multi-cut tool or the insert edge loop or the extrude? Extrude, right? So what am I going to select when I use that tool? Absolutely faces, right? And so do I need just this one? All four of them on the top, right? Very good. All right, so we're going to use the extrude tool. Here we go. And we're going to move it up. Oh, but that didn't work. It's too big. So that didn't work. So I need to scale it in first. So let me do that. Hey, get out of here. Why is it stuck in this window? Something happened. I think I did an extra extrude. There we go. All right, so we have to, what did that teach us? We have to get these inside faces first. So I did one extrude to get the inside faces, scaling them in, right? Now I'm going to extrude again, and I'm going to move it up. Okay, so this is going to allow me to create the shape. Cool. What about this next one? Looks about the same, but it's got that whole cube into a cylinder thing going on. Huh. All right. Well, what are we going to do for that? Well, we need to extrude in for sure, right? So let's grab these faces, do an extrude, scale these in. Okay. Now, I could do another extrude for the height here and then round it. But I think it's going to be a little bit quicker if I do the rounding now. Okay. So I'm going to go to Q to get out of that in the selection mode. And I'm going to right click and go into vertex. Right. I'm going to grab these vertices that I want to round. Go into my scale. Right. Scale them in. All right. Now let's go back into object mode and then into face mode. And we have those faces selected. Extrude, and up we go. All right. Same with this. We're gonna have to do an extrude, and then first we're going to scale it inward, right? And do another extrude to go up. Easy enough, right? What about this next one? Oh, it goes inside, Brian. I don't know about that. Well, it's a little bit like the jar, right? Top of the jar, it's got to go in some, right? Okay, so how do we do that? Face, grab this face, do an extrude. Scale it in. Do another extrude and push it down. Just like I did with the little satellite dish. And that's how you're going to make your jar for this skill check. Are you guys understanding? It's going to take a little practice, right? You got to work with it a little bit. Really can't answer that question yet, Brian. So lab will really help you, right? You want to get a really good handle on these three tools, okay? That's what you're going to be modeling with all month long. And you can build anything with them, okay? All right. So the final slide is talking about your skill check, okay? So your skill check is going to be, let's take a look at. I don't know why did it do that. Right, so in number 3 right here, preview that. Right, so we're already kind of accustomed to this scene, the jar scene, the jar start, right? Bring in these image planes, and you have created a block out from these image planes, matching silhouette and form, okay? But this time we're not going to be blocking out, we're going to be modeling. You're going to be using those three tools, the multi-cut, insert edge loop, and extrude, okay? So if I were to come in here and open up my skill check, the first thing I'm going to do is what? I want to start working on my skill check, which is not in the activity project. I want to set it to the skill check project, right? All right, so file, set project, skill check, set, right? Click on one time, make sure it's in the directory, set. A good red flag is this when I open scene that I go into my scenes of that project. So I'm good. All right. I did the block out the last time, so this is in there. I think I also did a model earlier. Just a pre-run, right? So this is not a model. This is a block out. 1, 2, 3 objects in here, right? I've put those objects on a layer. Okay, does anybody remember how I did that? No? Okay, layer. Well, I do have them selected, right? So I could create a layer from selected. Yes. Okay, so there's my layer. I could test it. Visibility. Yes, it works. I should also name this layer, right? Blocks. And save it. Okay, so now I have my layer blocks. Another thing I like to do when I'm showing you layers is look how nice it is to be able to work in here and not select your image planes. Okay, now you can still select them in the outliner. Okay, but what I've done is I have put them on their own layer. I'm going to delete this layer so I can show you. delete layer. Okay, so now I can select my image planes. And the bad thing is, if you get them into the right place you want them, sometimes you select them and you accidentally move them. You don't want to accidentally move your image planes once you have them set up. So I'm going to select both of my image planes, and I'm going to go to layers. I'm going to create layer from selected. I'm going to double click on the layer and rename it. I'm also going to change the display type from normal to reference. This will allow me to maintain the visual of them without being able to select them, okay? If it's on template, you will not be able to select them, but you will also not be able to see the image on them, all right? So you want to change it to reference, okay? Save. Okay, so here they are, the image layer, image planes. I can turn visibility off, right? But the nice thing about this is once I deselect them, I can't reselect them anymore because they are on a reference layer. So this really helps me not to move them once I get them into place, okay? All right, so what would I start with in this scene if I wanted to build this and model it with my tools we learned today? What shape would I start with? Cylinder, right? It's already kind of a round, right? We know that's the right shape. Let's try it. Polygons primitive, cylinder, boom. Let's move it up here. Let's scale it up, right? I'm gonna pop into that side view really quick just to get my proportions here. So I'm scaling from the center, which scales in X, Y, and Z. You can see that my image plane is actually maybe off a little bit or not exactly a straight on picture, right? Because you know, we're just in a studio taking these pictures, right? Reference images are sometimes very tough to get accurate viewpoints, okay? Sometimes you're searching quite a bit, but you'll find out when you do find good ones, oh man, they're such a big help. Okay, so let's scale this up a little bit. I'm gonna move it over this way a little bit, try to center it. And I'm not really worried about the height too much. I just wanna I know I'm scaling from the center, which tells me that I'm scaling proportionally, right? So it's a complete proportional circle here still, because I'm scaling from the center. Okay, that scales on all three axes at the same time and the same value. Okay, now I'm kind of, you know, can start scaling this way, but it gets a little cryptic because you're going, oh, am I too high? Am I too low? What I prefer to do is basically kind of line up this top to where I have a change in shape, right? So I'm not going to take this cylinder all the way up here, this technique. I could take it all the way up there, insert edge loops and make that change in shape, right? But this time I'm going to show you how to extrude and make that change in shape as you're extruding, okay? I do, however, want to get the bottom down to the very bottom without having to scale this. So I'm just going to go into vertex mode, select all these and go into move, and then I can move these down where I want them to be, okay? Now, this is not exactly the curve of the bottom of this jar, as you can see, right? This is a 90-degree turn, okay? So I may want to work with these a little bit later, okay? That might be considered like a second level detail, right? We want to get the first level of just the silhouette, and then we'll come in and get more refined, okay? I'm going to try to get as refined as I can with my extrude time because I want to be as economical with my time as possible. All right, so I have just a default cylinder scaled and positioned and ready to be added to, right? I basically can't make this shape with these polygons, edges, and vertices that I have right here, okay? So what I want to do is select these faces on top, right? So the marquee tool will be good for that. Faces, let's grab these faces on top. Oh, but it selects a whole bunch down here too, okay? Well, I don't really want that. So what I can do is use my shift and marquee around all these faces I don't want, because remember, they will take them out of that selection. So basically with an easy elimination of faces, I have the faces I want selected, right? Another way to select those faces would be to simply select them one at a time, right? And that's going to be a little time consuming, right? And you might accidentally get one on the side anyway, okay? Another tool I like to show at this time is the Paint Select tool, okay? With the Paint Select tool, which is right here, the third one down, you can select that, and it actually just paints and selects and only adds to that selection. It also does not paint through your object, which is really nice, okay? So it just allowed me to select those top faces very quickly by painting them. Now you see the circle here, that's the size of my paintbrush. If I hold B as in boy down and left mouse button, left or right, I can change the size of that paintbrush. B as in boy, hold it down, left mouse button, left or right to change the size of that. Or use my other method, whatever works for you, okay? So now that I have those selected, okay, I'm going to start extruding. But again, this is my perspective view. It's gonna be very hard to match this shape and this silhouette and this form with perspective because it changes in distance. So I'm gonna go into extrude, but then I'm gonna go into my side view where I can actually see the picture, right? My image plane. So I'm going to start extruding. Actually, I did extrude. Looks like I have, right? You gotta see when things aren't exactly working right. So I'm gonna have to go back in here and undo that extrude. Apparently I had an extra face selected. Let's try this again. Nothing selected. 5, go into face. I'm gonna use my paint. Paint all these faces here. Go into 4 just to check I have just those top faces selected. All good. Extrude. Pull up. Oh, something weird's going on there. I think something happened before when I extruded. Oops. What I'm doing now is I went back to before I started extruding, and you see I went back too far. And I can hold Shift and press Z, and it will redo that last command. So it gets me to the place where I want to start working on it again. Hopefully this will take care of what I did wrong. Okay, so again, I'm going to paint my selection here. Then I'm going to extrude, and we're back in business. Okay, no weirdness going on now, right? So did you guys catch that weirdness? The polygon was getting pulled and the edges are pulling apart. You want to keep an eye on that, okay? So now I'm extruded up some, but I also see that I'm not following my image now, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I want to scale not on this axis, I want to scale on the other two, right, to maintain proportions. So the hotkey is hold control down while I scale the axes, the little blue cube that I don't want to change, and that allows me to change the other two. It's a fantastic little method, okay? So control and the axis you don't want to change, and you can see that it scales the other two, okay? Okay, all right. So now I'm got, to a point where my change in shape is kind of going a different way, so I need to extrude again. So I'm going to extrude. I'm going to hold control down, move this out just a little bit. I'm going to extrude to get more faces. Come on up, hold control down, start going back the other way, right? Extrude, hold control down, scale and proportion it. Extrude, control, scale, extrude, I think I might be able to go almost to the top this time. And following my image. Okay. Every once in a while, good idea to check and make sure I am maintaining that proportion perfectly around. Okay. So I'm good, especially if I see it in this view, right? That's my front, so my width and then my depth here, they're matching. Okay. So I'm going to extrude again, pull it up a little bit. This time I'm going to start like making the inward lip. Extrude, pull it up a little bit, control, scale that inward some more. Of course, I'm taking some artistic allowances because my image is not perfectly straight, doesn't perfectly line up, and I know Maya is doing it exactly accurate, right? But what we have now is we're basically at the top, right? We've created the side, the indentation that comes out, right? The ring, and then the top lip here. And now what we need to do is start going inside, right? So we have to kind of use our imagination a little bit, right? Because we don't have the actual object at hand, right? I think you guys do on campus. I think you have all the models that you can look at, but you know, we don't have it right now with us, right? So we have to start thinking about how far in we're going to go, and basically what you're going to do is, you know, extrude, right? We're going to scale inward, right? But now we're going to start going down inside to make the inside of this jar. I'm going to extrude again, control, manipulate my scale inward and move it in and down. You see how I'm making that lip nice and round, right? I didn't have to insert any edge loops. I'm just extruding and making that form all along the way. And now I'm going to use my X-ray mode so that when I come in here, I can really start seeing how the distance I am making that ceramic jar, right? So I'm going to extrude again, bring it down. You can see if I left it here, I'd be coming right out the side, right? So this is where X-ray really works good. So I want to come down to here, but I don't want to forget to scale those in. And I can kind of see the distance, the thickness, because I'm in X-ray mode, right? So I'm going to extrude again and come down. Now, we're pretty close. I think we could probably get away with just going ahead and bringing this all the way down and keeping this as the base, okay? So now we have the jar. And that's basically what we're asking you to do, right? You may or may not have quite as much detail. I would hope you would get practice and do that. I don't want you to spend an exorbitant amount of time on the jar, right? You have models to create, but this is a great practice. Now, if I did want to clean up this bottom, because we will talk later about edge quality, and this edge quality is not good. Okay, it's way too much of an angle. That jar, even you can see in the picture, is not that sharp of an angle, right? It curves down here, right? So how could I fix this now that I have the extrude? There's no reason to extrude. I already have the shape here, right? But I need a change in shape here at the bottom. So this is where I'm going to insert edge loops, okay? So I'm going to go into Q to get out of that other tool, and I'm going to right click, go into object mode, and I'm going to go into insert edge loop. Okay, again, it's going to want you to select one of your edges. All right, so I know down here is where I want a couple of these edge loops. Okay, now with those edge loops, they're going to allow me to start curving this bottom a little bit so it's not such a hard right angle. Okay, so I'm going to go into Q to get out of my insert edge loop tool, and this time I'm going to select these edge loops. To select the whole edge loop, you can double click. So if you do a double click on an edge and it has a full loop that goes around, then it will select that whole loop of edges. Okay, so did you see that? If I select one edge, there you go. I can hold shift and go all the way around, or I could double click. And you see that the brown edge there is allowing me to select the whole edge loop, which makes it much faster for me to come in here. I have the whole edge loop selected, And now I can start scaling. I can hold control and start scaling this in. Okay, I can select the next edge loop and I can scale that a little bit in. And now we have a little bit of a curve there, looking much more realistic and much more accurate. Okay. And you can do that for the inside of the jar as well, right? You can see that edge is pretty harsh, right? So we could do the same thing with the inside, okay? So do you all have any questions about that? Getting excited to go practice this in the lab, right? Awesome. Okay, so won't see you for quite a while here, right? Not till the 10th, right? Have a safe, fun holiday break. Please try to model as much. Use these 3 tools as much as you can over the break, all right? Try to go forward in on FSO and pick your models out, okay? But certainly the day you come back, your weekly assignment's due, okay? So I would get that completely out of the way and try to move on to the next week's a little bit. At least pick the models out and start them, right? I want to just talk about the video, the turn-in video that we have. Okay, so if you are in your 1.9 competency week 1 assignment, the one, the heavy hitter, right? This is worth a lot of points here. Okay, this is your 3 models that you're going to bring into this display scene, right, and set them on the pillars. Okay, making sure that they are to our production scale. Okay, I'll hit on that in just a minute, but I want you to, more importantly, please watch this video. It's 22 plus minutes, and it basically walks you through everything. Steve walks you through everything in here in each one of these weeks. Now, some of the requirements don't match FSO, okay, because they're dated. All right, so just make sure you're looking at FSO for the requirements. Don't fall into the requirements here, right? But this turn in for week 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay, I'm just going to mute this, and you can see I'm going to scrub through it. He talks about everything you need to do to turn this in correctly, using your self-check document, right? How to import, how to scale, how to move them over to the pillars, right? Basically, every single step you need to accomplish besides the 3 models you're putting in here for your weekly assignment. So please, please have a look at those. There's one for each week, okay? Very important. It's at the very top, right under your requirements, okay? Right before you leave, I want to show you the one other thing. You guys want to see about production scale? Right? We talked about production scale, right? But I want you to actually see how it works, okay? So production scale is, what is production scale? What is our production scale the month, this term? That's right. 1 grid in Maya, which is these, right? All these black ones, right? All these, 1 inch equals, or 1 grid equals 1 inch, right? What's our, do we have a ruler in here? It'd be nice if there was a ruler in there, right? But there's not a ruler in there. So what our measurement tool is, and those images are these grids, right? In the picture, right? Those grids are only a 1/2 inch, okay? So you look at your picture and you count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 image grids, right? So what does that equal in Maya if those are a 1/2 inch? Cut it in half and we get 4.5 inches, right? Or 4.5 Maya grids, okay? We've already modeled it to proportion, right? Remember the difference between proportion and scale? Proportion is the size of itself, right? So width, height, depth, right? That's proportion. We already have proportion, so we don't want to change that. This happens to be one object, but if it was multiple objects, we would be to proportion. Then we would need to grab all the objects and scale them together. More than likely, you're going to want to group them, okay? So I'm going to scale this down, all right? must be in object mode. Select the object, and I'm going to scale it down so that it is 4.5 of these black grids, because those are the Maya grids, right? Tall. And I can actually turn these image planes off if I want to, right? So now it's not confusing. Always scale from the center because this maintains proportions. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Half, 1, 2, 3, 4, half, or quarter, right? Should be about a quarter, right? We're not going to be super accurate, like down to the tiny little bit, but we want you to have production scale, right? So do this and save this in your model scene, all right? If you do that and save it in your model scene, then when you import this into your display scene, it's already production scale size. You don't have to change it. You just have to go put it on the pedestal. All right, so that's going to save you a lot of time. Do it in the modeling scene. Okay. All right, any questions? Thanks a lot for your attention. You've been awesome. Have a great break. Can't wait to see you guys come back and your models that you create. Okay. All right, catch you later.